Welcome back to CBS News 24/7. Now to a monumental moment in the war on drugs. The Trump administration has officially designated Mexican drug cartels as domestic terrorist organizations. The acting administrator of the Drug Enforcement Administration is voicing strong support for the move. Turning now to CBS News Department of Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane. Scott, thanks so much for being with us. What else are we hearing today from the head of the DEA?
His name is Derek Maltz, and he is making this argument that this new designation that Latin American drug cartels are terrorist organizations is going to help them marshal a lot more resources and ability to stop, or at least slow, some of the drug trade into America, into American communities where fentanyl is killing users. It's killing innocent victims who are nearby and exposed to the toxic chemicals of fentanyl, even killing babies and law enforcement officers who come near the stuff. So they're trying to get aggressive about this, and some of this designation offers some new tools. The DEA hopes they're effective tools. Critics say they could be counterproductive, but among them is that foreign terrorist organizations are not just targeted by the U.S. government, but so too would be the people who provide support for terrorist organizations, people who funnel the money. If you starve the money, some of the money from terror groups, perhaps you cut them off a bit. But there's concern, Liz, that if you make it a crime to give money to a drug cartel, you could be knocking down those who are victims of the cartels, those who need the protection of cartels to seek asylum in America, those who unknowingly send money to families south of the border who they don't realize are associated with cartels. There's also the concern, Liz, that you could dry up some of the sources America has on the ground inside the drug networks.
Scott, I wanted to pivot to another story you're keeping an eye on. More than 1,500 Trump supporters were pardoned on charges related to the attacks on January the 6th at the Capitol. But a case that does still remain involves a Texas woman, Abigail Schrei. Who is Abigail Schrei, and what are the charges she's facing?
She faces sentencing on May 5th for a case that connects to January 6th. It's 1 degree away from it, but she stands alone because everybody who had a hand in January 6th or faced a January 6th related crime pretty much has the slate clean. They've been released from prison or the cases have been dropped, and quickly. Abigail Schrei pleaded guilty to a federal criminal charge. She was accused of sending a racist, vulgar, violent threat to the judge who was assigned to the January 6th case of President Trump. That case was bouncing around the court for about a year and a half. She pleaded guilty, and she will face sentencing for the violent threat against the judge on that January 6th case. There has been no pardon or dispensation for Abigail Schrei, but to be clear, our review of the court filings and the proceedings in that case shows she does face the prospect of a prison term.
Well, also in court today, we're keeping an eye on this. Workers suing the Trump administration over the dismantling of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. What are the details in this one?
At one point, you needed a notebook to keep track of the legal challenges that have been posed against
Yes.
Donald Trump's executive orders. You need like one of those 5-ring binders now, the old Trapper Keepers, because we're up to about 100 cases total with tabs. We have some of these cases, though, Liz, that are specifically about firings, layoffs, or cutbacks inside agencies. We're watching those closely. Among those trying to get their jobs back in courts this week, fired inspectors general, those who were supposed to be watchdogs inside the Trump administration, they're trying to get their jobs back. Those who are part of the U.S. Agency for International Development. How about those who are still with the Consumer Financial Protection Board, that agency that protects consumers from financial malpractice? Those are among the groups trying to get their jobs back. We watch them closely, Liz, because any more resistance from the courts could slow the layoff of more federal workers, which the Trump administration has promised in the months ahead.
There is so much to keep track of, and Scott, we're so grateful to you for helping us make sense of all of it. Scott MacFarlane there, the CBS News Department of Justice correspondent.